Okay, I'd like to call to order the Planning Commission meeting Wednesday, April 23rd, 2025. And the time is 6:42. Determination of a quorum. Mr. Kenny is excused tonight. Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Reyes?
Here.
Mr. Burke?
Here.
Mr. Price?
Here.
Mr. Studley?
Here.
Secretary Anderson?
Here.
Vice Chair Colonian?
Here.
Chairman Flynn is here. We have a quorum of 8 tonight. Emergency evacuation, the doors you came in lead out to the left, to the right. If we still, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the republic which stands, one nation, God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, approval of minutes, 5.1, March 26, 2025.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I have a motion to approve the minutes. I have a second.
I'll second.
I have a second by Mr. Price. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, 6.1, public hearing. Proposed activities under consideration for submittal to the state. State of Rhode Island, PY23 Community Development Block Grant Program and Housing Program. Number 1, CDBG Public Works Department, Quidnick Road improvements to 14 existing roads with the cost of $520,741.75. CDBG Public Works Department, HVAC system in the Human Services Building, $1,125,713.5. And 3 is the CDBG Comprehensive Community Action Program, CCAP, expansion of Adult Basic Education Program, services to Coventry Youth, and that's $40,000. So before I go into public hearing, does staff have anything to say on that?
No, I think you covered it well. We'll take the hearing, any comments at the hearing, and we'll close the hearing and we'll make the motions as
Any
you see
questions by
fit.
the board? I'll make a motion to open up public hearing.
Make a motion to open public.
Motion by Mr. Smith. Have a second by Mr. Burke. All those in favor?
Aye.
My public hearing's open. Is anybody in the room would like to make a comment on the grant, the Rhode Island Community Development Block Grant Program? Seeing none? Josh, anybody on Zoom? Anybody on Zoom, raise your hand, like to make a comment? What's that, Josh? Okay. Okay, make a motion to close public hearing.
Make a motion to close public hearing.
Motion by Mr. Smith, second. Mr. Burke? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. 6.2, Planning Commission review recommendations to Town Council, PY23 CDBG application and housing program application. Anything on staff? Just rankings, maybe?
Yeah, I can just offer, there's going to be 3 motions needed. You'll have the materials in the staff report that indicates the staff's findings for your consideration on the comp plan. And then we'll rank the project staff's suggestion based on discussion with the other pertinent members of staff that are involved in these, is that we would rank the applications as number 1 being the Public Works Quidnick Road Improvements Project, number 2 being the Comprehensive Community Action Program, programs for Coventry Youth, and number 3 would be the Public Works Department HVAC system. That would be the staff suggestion on ranking. It's up to your consideration and final decision.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yeah, I'll entertain a motion on number 1, certification that the activities are consistent with the town's comprehensive community plan and local development ordinances and regulations.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that all 3 of these applications are in fact consistent with the town's comprehensive community plan and local development ordinances and regulations, and I would like to incorporate the staff reports for each into my motion.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Colonian. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Price. Any other discussions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, number 2, ranking projects. You just heard from the staff. I'll entertain a motion to rank the projects.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion that we rank the projects in the order as suggested, or as just discussed by the planner. Number 1 being the Quidnick Road improvements to the 14 existing roads. Number 2 being the expansion of the adult basic education program services for Coventry youth. And number 3, the HVAC system for the human services building.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Colonian. I have a second.
Second it.
Second by Mr. Reyes. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, number 3, you want to do that?
Lastly, I would like to make a motion that we make a favorable recommendation to the town council to authorize the town manager to file the appropriate applications.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Colonian. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Reyes.
Through the chair, may I just add, well, that motion is consistent for all 3 applications on the record, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a motion. I have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we're gonna wait for David on this. Oh, snuck in. I didn't even see you, Dave.
Ninja.
No worries. Okay, next, just the new law. This is preliminary on both of these plans, but we will be taking public comment on both. The new law suggests that we don't have to take public comment only on master, but we will be taking public comment. It's not a public hearing, though. Okay. So 8.1, Proscape Landscaping, amended development plan and review, preliminary dash final, owner applicant, Backstreet Holdings LLC, CO John Pontarelli, AP 10 Lot 4011, Zone GB, Special Planning Overlay District, and it's 2043 Maplewood Road. Anybody here representing the applicant? Come on up. Name and address for the record, please.
John Pontarelli, 910 South Road, East Greenwich, Rhode Island.
Can you just give a quick why you're here tonight?
We're here to talk about the movement of the retention basin on the property. I believe my engineering company put in a permit with the Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management, and that was passed, I believe, by them. So we were just waiting on a decision from the board to go over that.
Okay, would you like him to come up
Sure.
and explain? Name and address, please. Just explain what was originally planned and what the new plan for the drainage is.
Sure. For the record, my name is Sam Hemingway. I'm an engineer with Garofalo and Associates doing business out of Providence. This project came before this board and was approved as a development plan review with a development program including a surface retention in the central portions of the property. As construction progressed, I think the owner realized that it would be better placed slightly to the, I guess, to the north, basically a shift of about 100 feet or give or take. So based on that, we made that modification. The functionality is identical to what was originally proposed. Initially, we asked the town if there was any process needed to go through. It's taken quite a while, so that started in November. We were asked to get a document from the DEM. I think the only document really that's available is a modified permit. So we filed for a modified a RIPI permit, drainage permit at the state. That was in fact issued. So that has been provided to the town as well. So effectively, we're here to shift a surface detention basin towards the frontage road so that the exterior operations associated with the development plan could be effectively economized and function better for the applicant. That's 10,000 foot. I'm here, obviously.
Anybody have any questions? Go ahead, Rick.
I'm sorry, I don't recall the other application, and you just said you shifted it further to the north now. So that's further away from Hockney Hill Road, but on this plan, it looks like that.
If somebody could put the
Yeah, I was
plan
going to
up,
say,
it would
can
be a
you
little
just,
bit-
I'm sorry?
If we could scroll to the plan, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's what I was going to suggest. If you could just maybe show us where it was before and where it's moving now and why, just to get it on the record.
And for the benefit of the commission, I'd also just note, if you look at page 3 in your staff packets, you'll also see the side-by-side, but we'll pull it up there.
That's a side by
That was
side.
the one on, the C4 is the best one. So you're right, it is as much east as it is north, so it is.
I just, this is so small, I can't even read it.
Oh, okay. So effectively, the basin was sited kind of towards the central portion of the property. So the intent initially with this development, and in fact, the development program that in the future includes some activities up along the frontage, specifically a garden shop and the like. So I think once the other improvements began to take shape, it became apparent that that area would be highly functional for the business operations.
Okay, so
it was really a simple shift.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but so in other words, on this, and I know you don't have it in front of you, so it was basically in the center of the property before. Okay, I can see the outline now, it's just not, and where is it going now?
To the northeast, towards the road and towards the northern property line.
Does it look like that little triangular? Is there any way you could just point to it on the screen? Oh, okay. All right, closer to Nooseneck Hill Road. Okay, I see it now. Okay, thank you. I'm pretty good at plans, but those are really small. Okay,
Anything else?
nope, that's it.
All right, we're good. Come on up. I just wanted to bring up a couple things that were brought up on the director's report. One was the overlay color
Yep.
of the building, and was supposed to be in, neutral color. White isn't neutral. I understand the overlay district is very confusing to many people,
Yep.
and understand why that happened. My main concern is, when can we get the buffer in for the people on Maple Root?
I'm just,
Anything else going to be disturbed? Because I was there, we took some photos.
no, 100%. Actually, some of the people are here, and I was talking with them before the meeting. So, as I explained to them, right now, we're on a construction site, and we're not finished with the project yet. And once the project is finished, then obviously, it's not going to look like that. But we can get the buffer in probably within the next 2 to 3 weeks. That's when I'll be able to put that buffer in.
Fall, but now's the best time.
Oh, we have a watering truck and we'll be able to water it all and all that stuff.
Yeah,
And I did reiterate to the neighbors that are here, obviously they have a right to talk too, but I did tell them that those plants are 10 feet tall on the onset. And the neighbor that's to my south, I did speak with her and we cleared some trees over there and I told her that I was also gonna put that, but before anybody even asked to do it, I'd already spoken to her and told her that I was going to do that. So, and those are my intentions, 100%.
Neighbors have been excellent. I talked to them on site.
Well, they're not happy with some things, but that's okay. We'll
Been
yeah.
good too. They do understand that you're still continuing to go through the process.
When I am. It took me 6 months to get electrical in there. I had to fight Kent County Water Authority that wanted to rip up the brand-new road that was in the back of my building to allow us to use the existing water line that was already there, which wound up costing me more money because I had to run the pipe 250 feet. But, I'm doing my best right now to not disturb or upset my neighbors, and I really am, whether they believe that or not, I really am. So, you know, we're doing our best, but
Not here to-
we're almost finished.
So Maple Route, there was a roadway cut through onto Maple Route.
That I'm going to disagree with, and I'm going to tell you what happened there. There was some sort of an entrance on Maple Route at some point there for that property, okay? And what happened is, there was an exorbitant amount of leaf debris and brush that had been dumped there over the years by I don't know who. But when we cleaned that brush and debris out, there's all the foliage that was in that area did not
Where the
exist.
cone is.
That's where we put the barriers, because they said that one of my people drove through there, and I believe someone else had driven through there too. So I actually put 2 barriers up temporarily so that nobody could come in and out of that access way.
And the other thing I was gonna ask, if you could move some of them containers that are on New Stack Hill Road?
Yes.
Being in the overlay district, it is all about aesthetics.
It is, and there's some stuff on the other side. Once my parking lot's finished out in the back, we're starting to set the fence in, then I can move all that stuff to where it's gonna go. And it's a construction area. Like I explained to them, when you build a brand-new house, you've got lumber outside in the yard that your neighbors are looking at, you got pallets of shingles, you got guys parked there, you got guys eating lunch out in the street. It's the same thing. It's no different. It's a construction zone. When it's done, then it'll look nice. I guarantee that.
I'd ask for one more thing,
I can try.
and I'm not beating you up tonight.
No.
If we could get a single row of abrevieties to the last house on Maple Route, because there's not much of a shielding there, screening.
Okay.
You have a double planting already, and I know that 10 to 12 footers are huge.
Big, yeah.
So you already got a double planting going around the building. I would be, and it's up to the board, I'm one of 9 votes. I would like to see at least one single row, because they're gonna spread together fast, down to the last house, if that's possible. I don't think it's that much farther. So that would correct some of the screening.
Would it help if I pointed out the area that I believe you're indicating?
I think in the director's report, the staff report. it
I
says
know
east
exactly.
Side of the building.
I know exactly where you're talking about, but can I ask my neighbors if that would make them happier if I put those?
Well, they're gonna
there
come
as
up.
well? Okay, that's
They're gonna
fine.
come up.
Because I have no problem doing that, yeah.
Okay.
I'm
Remember, they are 10 to 12 footers, so next year they'll be 16 footers.
going to orient the screen so that I believe it's viewable by all parties. The applicant has currently proposed on their latest revised plan set, they're going to continue the row of abrevieties that is proposed behind the building. They're going to continue it south and then turn this corner. And this corner will now, from all the way from the building, turning the corner all the way to the dumpster area is already, the applicant has proposed will be screened by a double staggered row of abrevieties. What the chair is speaking about is then continuing that to the north, and there's a house, and it might not be this lot, the last house, it's either on one of these 2 lots, continuing that north.
That lot you pointed to is where the last house is. The next lot down is the cemetery.
Got it. So this lot, I think the idea is that you're going to have vehicles that have parking spaces facing this way. I think the idea was to cover that with an additional shield, because as we recognize, when you cut to the limit of disturbance, there wasn't much of a buffer left, and I think we're just looking for that additional row. So I think that's that's not on your plan set now, but I believe that's what the chair is indicating.
You know, we left a 50-foot buffer there as we were asked to do in that area, but I have no problem putting those in if it's going to make all the difference in the world.
That's good, I'm sure the board
Yeah.
is agreeable on that. And you're going to eventually move everything off New Stack Hill Road
Yeah.
into that corner.
Well, when we're done, that's where we're going to put everything. But until I get the parking lot done, and I mean, I don't even have all my stuff there.
No, it's a big project.
Yeah, I don't even have all my equipment there, so, yeah.
Anybody else on the board have anything to say?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, John. Hey, John.
Yes.
So is the building staying white, or are you going to address it? It is what it is?
I really don't have any other option.
Okay.
The only other option that I have, that paint is baked into the metal, I was told, when they did the siding, and I was told that if we paint that, it's going to continuously peel. So that's what I've been told.
All right, because, you know, I don't know, I'll speak for this board member, just been catching a lot of flack for this, you know, what that looks like. You know, when we did talk, when you guys were ahead of, I had actually mentioned the TLC building, and then it was like, oh, yeah, it's going to be real similar to that. But it's not.
I never made mention to the TLC building.
No, I did.
Well, I did show you a rendering of what the building was going to look like, but I did say that the color was not going to be that color. My wife attended a meeting here when I had COVID, and I actually watched it online, and you guys maybe could go back and look at the footage, and she was asked at that meeting what color the building was gonna be, and in the meeting, she said it was gonna be white with green trim on it. That's what she had made mention of. So,
Mr. Chairman, members of the planning.
Name and address, please.
Yeah, Attorney Stephen Moretti. My office is at 1140 Reservoir Avenue, Cranston. I've been represented Proscape Landscaping in the initial hearing here. And I've had a lot of discussion and a lot of conversation with the town planner, the assistant planner, Mr. Barato, Mr. McLean, and we've gone back and forth about the language that the chair has recognized to be very ambiguous at best. And, you know, they say reasonable minds can differ on interpretation, and, you know, my reading of it, you know, I think they've put it in your hands, probably rightfully so there's no misunderstanding. The building has been constructed, as you know, the town has been excellent with John. John's been an excellent neighbor so far, and he continues and wants to be. He's never made, the building has been there, he's never been asked to change it. Everything in that, all that paint and the material, like John had mentioned, is baked into the panels. And if you were to attempt to paint them, and I'll speak to the code in a moment, but if you were to attempt to alter them, paint them, it's going to become an eyesore. It's going to peel. It won't stick. He could spray it. He could do whatever he wants to do with it. It costs him tens of thousands of dollars of maintenance every few years. It'll be like the Newport Bridge. There's always scaffolding up.
It's understandable.
It is. And the thing is with
There is a paint that's called DTM, direct to metal, that you could use. It lasts for 7 to 10 years. But I think, me personally, and I'm one of the board, if you put the arborvitae's for the neighbors, that was actually going to be a Dave's Market site. So it could have been worse. They understand that. So
whatever we could do, whatever Mr. Pontarelli could do, I mean, to not have to change the building, the color, like I said, and like I said, the code, if you read the language relative to the color in the intensity, it says that the facade should be low reflective, subtle, neutral, or earth tone. It doesn't say neutral and earth tone. It says neutral or earth tone. And then you go to the Google definition or the Webster definition of neutral, white is a neutral color. So my argument is, and not an argument, so to speak, but I've spoken to, and again, the town planner has been very open. We had great discussion about it, and I'm not going to put words in his mouth, but it's this statute or this ordinance should probably be changed to take out any misunderstanding or because it uses the word or, and that means it's any of the above, not all of the above.
understandable.
And so
Confusing ordinance.
it is.
I agree with you.
And again, Mr. Pontarelli's been a good neighbor, put up a ton of money. We're just asking that you recognize the fact that he's, you know, in light of the fact he's willing to make the other buffers and do anything that this board reasonably thinks, and whatever the neighbors reasonably think, Mr. Pontarelli will.
We're looking at an unlandscaped building right now, so it's
yeah.
going to look much different. I mean, that's your expertise. You want it to look good. So, I'm comfortable, but if any of the other board members have anything to say, I'll take their comments.
If I could? Yeah, so I went by there last week along the back of the building, because same thing, concerns from the people on Maple Root Road. And there are lots of shades of white, too. And the shade of white that's on that building happens to be pretty intense. And it does stick out. So I appreciate the double or triple row of arborvitae's. And like I said, all those polycasters, and that was one thing I noticed for sure. And I got out in my car and I walked, and it's like, yeah, and I get it with the neighbors, you know? And, you know, like all those polycasters are the sanders on the right side that are just hodgepodge, just put on the ground. Season's over, I get it. Maybe just put them somewhere else for now. So, John, they're not looking at them, because that's a really nice house, like they all are in that neighborhood, the one to the right of it, and just kind of neaten that up, because they're seeing it every day. They go out on their back deck and have coffee, they're looking at that.
I made mention to him that I would, I just gotta finish down the other end so I can move all that stuff.
That'd be great. That was there one day last week. That was me walking around looking, you know, and just kind of sympathize with the neighbors and, what's that? Yeah, well, they know me well, so that's fine, but,
I know Mr.
yeah.
Pontarelli would like to listen to the neighbors and address their.
They're going to come up. If they have any, if we haven't touched on anything, I'm going to allow them to come up, but I wanted the board to
Please, yes.
interact first.
Great.
Like to get those Sanders moved out of there sooner than later. That's all I have.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Price.
I just had one question. So the area that the drainage pond was located in, and I noticed it's kind of like the area in back of where the future garden shop is. Is that area going to be grassed, or is that going to remain gravel like it is now?
Right now, it'll stay gravel until we start work on the other project that's over there, so, yeah.
So it's always going to be gravel, or?
No.
Okay, potential in the future for more landscape area, showing off your product and stuff like that?
100%.
Thank you.
Okay, Jeff?
Yes, thank you.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
Just quick, do you have an estimated time frame to complete construction? And I realize you're dealing with a number of variables, but ideally, when would you like to see the project completed?
In the next month and a half, 2 months.
6 to 8 weeks?
I'd like to, yes, I hope so.
Okay, all right, so with the contingency, then it probably shouldn't be any more than 90 to 120 days at the worst. Okay, and then the second thing, I just wanted to,
We haven't even been on the construction for a year yet. We've got started there in July, so we're actually moving along pretty good. I
Oh, that's pretty vigorous.
as you know, we've had a few projects right in that area of Hockney Hill Road and Route 3. And one of the things that comes to mind is, and it came up with the Cornfield project, is that's envisioned in our comprehensive plan to be the gateway to Coventry. That's the first thing people see when they come off 95 and they're heading into Coventry and they're looking around. And I think that's one of the reasons that the board is kind of concerned as to how the properties look aesthetically when we're driving down the street. And I just think, and I don't disagree with anything that you said, I just wanted to kind of give you some indication of why we were bringing some of these things up. I went by the property, and I just happened to mention to Ron tonight, I said, you know, I haven't been out there in a couple of weeks, but I drive that way on my way to Connecticut, and I haven't been there in a couple of weeks, and I said, I could have sworn there was a whole bunch, and it's the same things these guys were talking about tonight. And I'm glad that it's just temporary while you're under construction, because it's certainly,
We have to do a big sign
yeah.
on the front, and then landscaping on the road, all of that, that's all in the plan.
yeah, that's all. I just wanted to point that out.
To do that.
Because it is, and it's, again, I'll be very candid and tell you, that it's mixed over there. Just coming into Coventry, we got self-storage, we've got whatever's going in the cornfield, we've got your projects, we got a Dollar General. It's kind of a little bit of a mishmash, but we're trying to do the best we can to make
I
sure.
haven't asked Mr. Pontarelli, but is there a nursery or something analogous to what you are modeling this after, so that the people that are here or the board can envision what it
Probably
potentially?
like Farmer's Daughter down in South County. I don't know if anybody's been there to see that.
Down the way to URI?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sure it's gonna look fine.
Yeah, I'm sure if you're doing landscaping, you're not gonna have a place that doesn't look pleasing because people won't come there to buy the stuff, so. No problem. I just wanted to find out what the time frame was for these folks and for the record, and again, point out why you were hearing some of the things we were talking about.
I'll say it again, and I think we're way ahead of where a lot of people would be for starting that project in July. We've been really working diligently and trying to get our subcontractors in there to get stuff done and pushing on utilities to get the project finished, not just for ourselves, but for everybody.
Yeah,
So,
it's not easy. You mentioned some of the things dealing with the utility companies, plus this new permit, so I think you're doing a remarkable
I'm
job.
renting 3 places right now. Nobody wants it done more than I do. I can guarantee that, so.
Okay.
Yes, we really can't wait.
So staff put in the report, you good, you all set, Rick? So staff put in the report 6 months for the buffering, that should be more than enough time.
Well, I'm agreeing to do it before that because
Right, but it's in the report, so if we're gonna, in the motion, put the staff report. But I know there's 2 times to plant, now and then in the fall. You're not gonna put them in July.
no, we can't.
You'll lose, you know, you don't wanna lose any of those. Okay, I'm good.
One quick addition, and I think it's worth just noting before we take any comments. My suggestion to the commission would be that we add one additional condition of approval based on the discussion we've just had, and that would be for the record plan that the applicant will submit following this, assuming that there is an approval tonight, that they'll agree to, and this is the language I would suggest, to provide 10 to 12-foot high vegetated buffer comprised of green giant arborvitae trees planted in a staggered double row configuration to be leading from the existing row of trees behind the building northward to ensure a screen for all the single-family dwellings on Maple Root Road. So essentially what we just discussed, what I just pointed out.
After the building.
Oh, single row? Okay, so then I'll amend that to suggest 10 to 5-foot vegetated buffer trees in a single row to extend northward from that, and I believe that captures the intent of what was discussed here. I just want to make sure it's clear for the record. We're going to have that as a condition of approval as part of the, any considered approved plan for this.
But the mature growth of those is about 25 to 30 by 15.
And that would be.
Appreciate you doing that.
To the area of that house, is that?
Yeah, I would designate that to provide the screen to the single-family dwellings that are on Maple Root Road. So essentially, we'll allow, you can show it on a plan, but on the plan, you can kind of measure out where you'd need to pull that buffer to. That's what I'd ask.
Just one thing, the staff report says east side of building, it's actually west side. It stipulates that a few times in the report.
Yeah,
It says east.
That's
and even
correct.
On the engineered report, it says east.
yeah. No, all of the buffer we're talking about is, you're correct. It's the
West
west side of the building, the west property line of this property.
Okay, anybody else? I'm gonna call, if anybody wants to come up, you can sit down and come on up. Name and address, please.
Patricia Perry, 38 Maple Root Road. I live in the red house across from this, and I think they're doing a great job. But there's two concerns. One, many nights last year, or well, during this past year, people have had trucks pointed at the house, at my house in particular, and they've been running all night with lights on. And that's hard because, you want to enjoy your home at night. And I specifically think from 10 to 7 a.m., there's no reason to have lights like blaring at the house. And I know that there was someone who was there every night. I don't know if it was security detail or something, but this was a lot.
Okay, I'll have the applicant.
So if they could consider,
That's
like,
why we put the
dealing with that.
abrevieties. I believe they're gonna go right in front of your house.
But, there's no reason
He
for,
will have operation hours once he gets going. Right now, under construction,
but no, I don't think that light should.
nothing all night, though. Thank you. Anybody else like to come up? Come on up, sir.
Roger Leclerc, Leclerc, 8 Maple Root Road. And I just spoke to John prior to the meeting, and we sort of went back and forth on a lot of issues. And I understand it's a work in progress, but for us who live there 24/7, walking up and down the street, driving up and down the street, it looks like the highway department. I heard from a few of you who've gone over there to see pictures. Now Phyllis, who's 97 years old, has lived there all her life. And unfortunately, of course, she can't be present here. But I have a registered letter for her. But anyway, she has to look at those so-called salt spreaders or sand spreaders that come off the back of a truck. Now, he met my wife 3 weeks ago, and he was looking for myself too, I think, because I passed him on Maple Road. He said he was going to remove them and take them out of the area. It's 3 weeks later. Again, he keeps saying it's work, construction, and it's going to take time. But when you look at things scattered everywhere, I understand the building has to be taken care of, electrical, water, frame, whatever else is going on. But when you look at all the stuff spread out there right now, even with Jenny Ann, the house that abuts the large garage doors, there's pallets of material there. Now there's 2 huge sort of tanks. I don't know what they're going to be used for, if they're chemical tanks. They're right on the side of her yard. So aesthetically for us, that's what's bothering us. So when we went to the meetings prior to this all being approved, we wanted to be good neighbors. We said that to him. And I understand it's work in progress. But how much progress, I understand it's going to take a while, but when you look at this every day, it's not fair to us. And when you have people who come over and say, what's going on here, you sort of explain it. I had another person who's an engineer from the other side of town who came over to Phyllis's house to check her septic system. He said to me, what happened here? I said, you tell me. At that time, he had all his trucks like she just mentioned, parked near the large garage doors. Those lights were beaming into Phyllis's house. They were on for hours. We didn't know what was going on. Now, if those are his employees, he needs to monitor that somehow, because it's not fair, again, for us to try. My wife even left a message to whatever his number is. Nobody returned the call. So we were even upset with that. Why can't you return the call? Because we were trying to figure out why these trucks were running and the lights were on. So prior to those spreaders being placed there, the trucks were there, then the trucks are gone and those things come there. It was like, why are you doing? We actually asked him if he was trying to pay us back and say, all right, you want to complain a little bit? I'll put these here. And he said he didn't, and I trust that he didn't. But, you know, they're standing up like dominoes. So it's just not fair to us to see this every day. You got plows, you got his trucks, you got other trucks that come in, you got piles of material. And again, I know it's a work in progress, but in the meantime, we're waiting for the buffer. And he mentioned that area that was cleared. He's right. But when Warwick Tree Service was there, I was there. I only wish I had videos prior to the cutting and after the cutting, because I talked to the Warwick Tree guys. And when I saw them going into that area and thinning it out, I said, I think you're getting into the buffer. And when they took in that open area, there was a tree there. They actually took the tree down. I saw them take it down, and I think they probably took the stump out, of course. So anyway, again, we want to be good neighbors. There's no question about that. We want him to be successful with his, with his business, but we just feel like we're a close-knit community there. There's ourselves here, and there's a few others on Steele Lane who unfortunately couldn't come tonight. So, we've been all talking among ourselves and saying, this is not fair to us as taxpayers that we're living through this. Again, it's a work in progress, and we hope it will come out the way he's saying it will. But in the meantime, we're buying time and he's buying time, but that's where we're at.
I can
Basically.
guarantee you it will come out what he says in this meeting tonight. Actually, one of the neighbors, she said to me, you really do care. Yes, we do care. I was out there taking pictures. Staff
Right.
was out there taking.
Yeah, I wish I only would have met you up there. So you saw it yourself.
Saw it,
Okay.
and,
So, I mean, think of it. If you look out your window, we have a beautiful maple root pond behind our houses, which is picturesque. And then we look at this and say, wow, it's like day and night.
you see the apovites installed, and that's why
I understand that.
continued.
Mhm.
Wanted them to continue down farther. And
Right.
the board has agreed to that. And I think that's gonna really make a big.
It is, and I talked to Doug. Doug's been very helpful. He's called me, he's kept us posted. I'm not the spokesperson for the street, but for some other people I am, especially for Phyllis Houston. Like I said, 97 years old, she's been there all her life, and unfortunately, this is how it's coming to for her in front of her house, and she has a beautiful home. So and Jenny Ann on the other side, who is sort of related to John from what he told me, so anyway, but that's all I have to say.
I think the applicant understands.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to come up? Name and address, please.
Jackie Bryans, 28 Maple Root Road. I live a couple of houses up from Roger, and I live right next door to Phyllis, and I've been living there since 1996. A little history. The house that I live in was the original ice house for the town of Coventry back in 1930. And it's very fragile, but it's been remodeled and stuff, and we loved it, so we moved in there. And we've become very close with Phyllis as far as things that she needs to have done. Her husband could not walk, so I did a lot of helping at night when he fell out of bed and things like that. And we all try to take care of her. We think that there could have been a lot of worse things that happened to Maple Root Road other than what did happen. But we would like for you people to understand and keep it in mind that this is a history of the town of Coventry, not just a few houses, but the history. And we would like to keep it that way. And we're going to stay there. No matter what you do or what anybody does, we're going to stay on that road because we love it. So do these people. They all love it. So with any help from you people, to keep it the way that it is or the way that it should be, we would appreciate it. That's all we're asking, okay? Thank you.
Just want to say, we don't live next to you, but we're all neighbors here. We're all from Coventry. So thank you. Anybody else? Come on up, sir.
18 Maple Root Road, I live on the other side.
Name and address, please.
Andrew Mitroni, 18 Maple Root Road. I live next to Phyllis. With our brief discussion earlier, I just want to reiterate that the work hours are enforced. He said there would be a mechanic inside. I just want to make sure there's not going to be any oil or anything outside the building. There's a lot of animals. There's the pond there. We don't want to interfere with any of that. And then I would like to make sure the hours are enforced because, you know, Phyllis is old. She goes to bed earlier. We all don't want to hear ear guns and pneumatic tools at random hours in the night, and I just want to reiterate that. All right?
Not only does the apovites create a buffer, it also helps with the sound. So not that I'm want sound, but it will drastically help. Right now, you're just looking at a building in the middle of everything. Is there anybody else like to come up? Anybody on Zoom like to make any comments? Anything, Josh? Okay, you like to just come up and address what they said and just give them a little guarantee and.
As I had made mention, and I've gone down and met a number of them, and there was an incident with Phyllis and her neighbors, and I actually took it upon myself to go there the next day to try to find them myself and look for them and tell them that that stuff was going to be taken care of. But I did also say it's going to take me a few weeks to get this stuff done, and it is. So we'll be able to move that stuff that they have concerns with soon, and I'm hoping in the next week and a half to 2 weeks, like I had made mention, I'll be able to put that buffer up for them. So, yeah.
If I remember correctly, your operation hours, basically you said most of your operation is done off-site.
Everything is done off-site.
Morning,
Mm-hmm.
they leave and then they come back at night.
That's correct. And I have one crew of people that work on Saturdays there, and they leave, do a job, and then they come back, and then they're gone for the day. So I think a lot more favorable than having a grocery store there where there's tractor trailer trucks in the parking area 24 hours a day delivering food and groceries and material, 100%. Mm-hmm.
Just a quick question, just for clarification for hours of operation. If there was an hour of the night, beginning at night, and then an hour in the morning that you would agree to not be running equipment on the site, would you say is 10 p.m. to 7 a.m.? Is that fair?
I think that's fair, yeah.
I mean, could you do 9? I know I'm hearing that there's an elderly woman.
I'm not sure what your specifications are for a commercial site based in that zone. That's what I'd like to see first, and then I would agree to anything else based on that once you provide that information. I think I'd like to see that. No, everything's off-site. Mm-hmm.
No removal, I don't believe, is an issue.
No.
No, I mean, the understanding is that we can control a site through hours of operation. I believe you've made statements in the past, so that's why I'm just seeking clarity. Hours of operation and running of equipment are different things. If you have a car pulling in at midnight because whatever it might have been, I'm not going to have a problem with that. But I think running equipment at that hour or leaving a car running at that hour is a different thing.
10 to 7 is more than acceptable.
Is that, I'm leaving that just for the board's consideration. I think that's something that we may memorialize with the condition of approval through this decision, if that's amenable to the board.
Rick, go ahead.
Could you just explain, because I'm hearing about these stuff that's being stored there. Did I hear plows and sanders on the back? So when are those put on trucks, taken off trucks? Are the trucks going, like if there's a storm event, do you have crews coming in, switching out the equipment?
No, all the equipment's rotated out, so by the end of November, everything's outfitted with snow equipment, the snow removal equipment, which would be a plow and a salter. That's it.
Right, so is it going to be stored there for the summer?
It's meant to be stored on the interior of the building. So we have a huge portion of the building that's cold storage. Inside of that building, there's going to be racks. That stuff will all be stored on racks. All the plows will be stored inside on that floor, as well as most of the snow pushers that are out in the parking lot now. So that's how we did that. So now once the snow stuff goes on for the winter, all the lawnmowers and all that equipment comes inside of that building, and then there's a roll-up door that goes into the mechanic space, so they take the stuff right from the interior, take it in, do their preventative maintenance for the season on it, and then it goes back into the garage till the spring.
So when there's a storm event, the trucks and all the sanders and the plows, they're on equipment and they're elsewhere. We don't have crews showing up at, oh, there's a storm event today, we gotta go fit the trucks, go there
No.
at 7 o'clock. So
No.
It's pretty much gonna be,
Every piece of equipment that we have, most of the trucks, I would say 95% of the trucks are taken home by the drivers that are gonna drive them for the storm, and then we have our sites outfitted. We have about 7 or 8 salt depots throughout the state where we have our salt delivered to, and we pull off of those sites and use salt to salt at those areas, at night and what have you. In all honesty, I really don't have a lot of work in
well,
Coventry at all.
do you have an so I mean, why would these, I'm just trying to figure out who would have been on site with a vehicle running now?
I don't know that someone made a mistake that night and warmed something up, and there was just a mistake, and it was actually left running, I guess, for quite a while, so, which just.
I'll let you come up.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to figure out. Like, right now, do you have employees that go to that site to get equipment after, 9 o'clock at night? or
No.
they're gonna need to
No,
pick
we
it
don't.
up? They shouldn't be there, is what you're telling me.
No, we did have a problem with someone on the site at one point that wasn't anybody of us, but, yeah, somebody actually called and called the police, so that was great, yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So you don't expect that there's gonna be a lot of operation going on after dark?
No, and we're in a construction build, and the people have to realize that unfortunately, I'm not there all day because I actually have to go to work so we can pay for the building. So our offices are actually, we rented a building down across from, Midstate Gun, right across the street, and I've got all the office people in there, and that's actually where our office is, and then we have, the rest of the stuff is up in West Greenwich right now, so we're kind of displaced, so a mistake will get made here and there sometimes, I guess, with these trucks. I'm not physically at the site all day. I can't be. I have to work.
So
Yeah.
you envision when this project is complete and that building's occupiable, the stuff is gonna be inside? There's not gonna be a lot of storage outside?
No, there's not. No, and if the stuff's gonna be stored, it's gonna be stored all the way down the other end where the cemetery is, where we designed the parking lot to be that way, so it would be less impactful. If we wake those people up across in the cemetery, we're real loud, like we're being real loud, so.
My recollection is when you came before us before, this is gonna be a retail garden center. You're gonna have people coming and going to purchase good in the middle of the day, like other garden centers, and at the end.
At some point.
Thereabout, you'll be closing.
At some point, yes. Yep. That's our intention. It is. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. Hopefully I addressed
I'm going to ask. Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to make sure, I didn't hear the board clarify. I've heard some reference to these trucks. Is there any reason whatsoever that a truck needs to be running after dark at all on that site?
If it,
Unattended?
um,
Is there a reason for that?
so if it's cold, just to warm the truck up, sometime.
What are you doing at 10 o'clock at night with a truck?
They might be going to pick something up, or they might be getting something ready for the next day, or what have you, so, yeah.
That's something that can that be isolated to a location that's not?
Well, I mean, I have to be able, look, I have to have access to my site. I have to have access to my garage doors and things like that. I'm telling you that from 10 to 7, I shouldn't have a problem with that, but I mean, if I live next door to Silver Lake Pizza, and people are coming in and getting pizzas all night, I mean, I have to be able to access my building.
I just want to make sure the public understands that.
Yeah.
Not an everyday occurrence.
It's not like a schedule where people are coming in and starting trucks up every night and they're letting them run all night long. No, that doesn't happen.
I think that's the concern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay. Come on up there. Name and address again, please.
Patricia Perry. My grandfather built a couple of the houses on the road. He lived there his whole life. I was lucky enough to be able to live in one of the houses next to my mom. There are trucks.
Just address the board.
There is a truck, and they have machinery running, and there is people that are in trucks all night long. I'm not making this up. They park. My house is like the red house, the second one in, and the lights go right through the house. I need you to understand, I don't know if this is a security person, but there's a shack, there's a light, there's machines running, and then there's always a truck. So I don't know what he's saying, that things don't run all night. They do. And, I did go over there once and talk to the guy one morning at 6 a.m. and asked him to turn the truck around at least. I'm willing to be understanding, but machinery running at night, that's one thing. But lights that are blaring through your house, that's a lot.
6 a.m. in the morning, I can understand.
It was 2 a.m. It was all night long. So, I don't know what he's saying, but I'm telling you that that's what we're experiencing on my part of the road.
I'm not envisioning somebody at 2 a.m.
Ron, if I could
ahead,
just jump in. On the one hand, I do think we're straying a little bit from the original ask of the applicant in that, this is really just a modification of the already approved plan. But since we're here and we're hearing concerns from the neighbors, it seems like there's a lot of concerns, valid concerns. And I'm just wondering, with the way that parking lot is designed, yeah, lights are gonna shine that way, especially in the winter months. Maybe even 2 a.m., yeah, that's definitely not supposed to happen, but it could even become a problem at 6 p.m. when it's dead of winter. So maybe the buffer, it could be supplemented rather than arborvitae, some type of stockade fence or something like that, just to limit the lights completely. I don't know.
I'd like to address the comments. Mr. Pontarelli in no way is indicating that she's incorrect or she's not being truthful. He's unaware of it. He's got no one acting as security there. He's got no employees that should be there. And my expectation is something's going on that maybe shouldn't be going on that he's unaware of. So, Mr. Pontarelli, this is not something that should be happening. He's unaware of it completely. In fact, and so he was glad that at one point a police was called because an authorized person was there. Neighbor did call the police. He has no problem with people calling the police if people have lights blaring at 2, 3 in the morning. That's it. I don't think this is anything. It's a concern to the neighbors when it's happening that should not happen. He's not aware of it. And I think all he's saying is if I have to put a truck in on an emergency basis and the lights swing by, but he certainly, I know John personally, and I think members have gotten to know him. He's not the kind of a guy that would have lights on or tolerate it for having an employee run his truck, burn his gas, and have lights blasting against the neighbor's house. That's terrible. And I can tell you that he would not want that to happen to him. He would not want that to happen to any neighbor. And this is something like he's completely unaware of. And, all of the things that are happening, if you're erecting arborvitae, we have a plan that was approved, like to your point, and all of these things is dollars. And like I said, if it becomes an issue, he can be, the zoning board can cite him, the planning board can cite him for violations if it becomes an issue. And so I think that he's been a good neighbor. The town he's cooperated with the town. The town has been very good. He's been very, very, very open to the neighbors and trying to answer their questions and answer their concerns. All of the additional plantings that he's willing to do, all that's an expense. It's time. And so everything is going to be internal. To his expense. He's bringing the plows. He's bringing everything in. They're going to work on things inside. So I think at the end of the day, when the project is done, I think to the chairman's point, it's going to be completely different than what's going on there. But I want to make it explicit that Mr. Pontarelli was completely unaware of that incident or incidents, and he won't tolerate it. And so he has no objection to someone calling the police. None. They shouldn't be doing it. So, I just want to address that because I feel for that woman, and I wouldn't like it if it was my house, and Mr. Pontarelli wouldn't like it either.
Maybe we could back the trucks in instead of pulling them in. Is that okay? Sure, come on up.
May I say- East Greenwich, Rhode Island. The only question I wanted to ask was, when was the last time that
Address the board.
I'm sorry, when was the last time that she noticed that a truck was running at 2 o'clock in the morning? Because I know there was an incident maybe 2.5 to 3 months ago that happened, but I'd be very concerned to find out that there's trucks and what have you over there at 10, 11, 12, 1, 2 in the morning
Not your
at this.
trucks is what you're saying.
That's correct. That's a concern to me because we don't have anybody working. All of our vehicles are on GPS. We can monitor them 24 hours a day. I'm not aware that something's running of ours or in that area at between after 8, let's say 8, 7 o'clock at night to 2 in the morning. So
My suggestion is the neighbors should contact the police if there's anything there after 7 or 8 o'clock at night.
yeah, and I would like.
I went to the site, there was nobody around.
Oh, and I wanted to know if maybe she wanted to comment on when that she last saw that, because I'd like to know if it was a couple of months ago when the incident happened and it happened one other time, I guess, okay.
I don't want to beat this thing up.
Oh, I don't either, but
think we got, we got what we wanted.
Okay,
And
yeah.
you haven't come up yet, why don't you let, you can stand there, I can hear you. Okay, thank you. I think the applicant's been very clear that it's not his vehicle. Can contact Coventry Police. He's gonna be a good neighbor to you, and the planning department, staff will make sure of that. Thank you. Come on, go ahead, Kevin.
How many plow trucks do you have, sir?
About 13 to 14 plow trucks.
So, young lady, was it in the wintertime? Because if it's in the wintertime and it's snowing out, it could be a plow truck coming in, someone like changing a blade or something, and one left their truck running, you guys change your blades there?
Any blades there, there's nothing.
You don't do nothing there?
We have
No.
another garage in West Greenwich that we're using right now to do.
Think some of the guys are just going, taking a break over there?
No.
She said a van, it could be just a random van.
Oh, just, it wasn't a truck, it was a van too?
Sleeping there.
Somebody could-
I felt, it might be one of the plow guys, you know?
I think we're good. You'll have to come up and talk, but I think we got it.
I was trying to, might have been one of the plow guys, you know what I'm saying?
Excuse me, through the chair, just everyone in the crowd, please try to keep your comments limited so we can have a one-way conversation, please.
We're gonna put that in the motion, and I can tell you that the planning department will be on top of this, and you just gotta have a little bit of patience till the applicant gets this thing completed. But your Apovites, he said, we're gonna be in within 6 weeks. I will monitor this, this board is very aggressive, they will drive by and make sure that this thing looks good for you people. That's the best I can do. Thank you. Okay, I think we're good. We're good in Zoom.
I might just
Go ahead.
add, so my observation is that we have 3 potential additional conditions of approval on top of what's already in the staff report. One is what I described earlier, the row of trees that will extend north of the building. I articulated that earlier, and we've captured that in notes so that we can address that correctly for the final decision. Another one would be consideration of for there to be no running of equipment between the hours of 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. And then the last that I think is something that would cover all the vegetation, but that if any of the planting buffer trees should die, that they be replaced at the applicant's cost. So that's my suggestion on 3 additional conditions of approval for your consideration as part of the motion.
Thank you. Anybody else on the board have any questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion This member agrees with the planning staff report to approve the original, excuse me for a second, amended, to amend the development plan and review for the subject property. And this is conditional with what we had mentioned just previously and again with the 10 to 12-foot arborvitaes that was articulated earlier. We'll just leave it at that, borderlining all the way in the back road. Also, the condition that he will replace anything that does die. And the other condition, help me out.
Hours of operation.
Oh, the hours of operation that.
Actually, I should reframe that. That there shall be no running of equipment between the hours of 10 PM to 7 AM.
Sure, and that conditional would be no running of equipment between the hours of 10 PM and 7 AM. Those are the three conditions noted in this report. I'd also like to adopt the finding of facts here in the staff report. And that's it.
Yeah, I have a motion by Mr. Anderson. I have a second.
Conditions that are already in the report.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. So again, the findings of facts and the actual staff report itself be added. Conditions.
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Smith. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, we have more on our agenda tonight. If you want to talk to the previous applicant, could you bring it outside, please? Thank you. 8.2 Hockney Hill Office Storage Units, preliminary plan, major land of development, and associate dimensional variances. Owner, AJB Real Estate LLC, applicant, Andrew Barber. AP 10, Lot 42, Zone General Business, Special Planning Overlay District, 71 Hockney Hill Road. Representing the applicant, name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Brian King from Crossman Engineering, 100 Jefferson Boulevard, Suite 200 in Warwick.
Andrew J. Barber, 249. Andrew J. Barber, 249 Station Street, Coventry, Rhode Island.
Thank you. So we're here tonight to discuss the property at 71 Hockney Hill Road. It's identified on Assessor's Plat 10 as Lot 42. It's a 2.2 acre site. It's right in back of the Dollar General, and it's actually adjacent to the property that was just discussed. The property has frontage on both Hockney Hill Road and on Route 3. It's a relatively flat piece of property, and it's currently scrub brush, mostly made up of scrub brush. We were here several months ago to review very similar plans for the master plan submission. We did receive some variances, dimensional variances, which was in reference to parking, loading, and landscaping. The landscaping was really just the separation distances between the Dollar General site and the Pro Landscaping site on the south side. We weren't proposing any reduction in landscaping. It was more of a distance, if I'm correct in saying that. So these are the plans that we have up front, and if we could go to Plan C6, please. So this is the site layout plan. I'm not sure why there's a lot of bullet points on this, but it must be the way it came through. We're proposing, it's a two-phase project. There's one building in phase one, which is an 8,000 square foot building. It's going to be a metal frame building with aluminum siding and trim. The color would be a blue. It's with white trim. It's an Arctic blue, and it's a slate blue rather, and an Arctic white trim. There's a proposed driveway off of Harkney Hill Road, and there's also a proposed driveway off of Route 3. The Route 3 driveway is a right turn in, right turn out only. We show here the parking layout, and there's a stormwater basin on the west side of the property. The area in yellow on the board is what would be Phase 2, and those will be two smaller buildings, 6,000 square feet, with pavement in between the two buildings. For this particular site, we are requesting 2 additional variances, which I can get into after. But if we want to go to the next plan, please. This is the grading and drainage plan, and it also shows the proposed septic system location. So the grading and drainage, the drainage system for the site will be installed in Phase 1. There'll be a couple of catch basins that will collect runoff from all the impervious areas, and also there'll be some flow that runs overland toward the proposed stormwater basin on the west side of the property. The basin is about 4.5 feet deep at maximum. It's going to be loamed and seeded, and we are proposing landscaping around the property, which we have a separate plan. We can get to that after. So all of this is going to be installed under Phase 1, which would also treat and mitigate the runoff from the Phase 2 area in the future. The proposed septic system is going to be below ground, and it'll be in front of the Phase 1 building, between the building and the roadway. And it's just be designed for 460 gallons per day, which is the anticipated flow for the entire site, which is really just like a 4-bedroom house. It's just going to be a conventional trench system, and that'll be installed under Phase 1 as well. The next plan is the utility plan. We'll have proposed water off of Harkney Hill Road. The sewer is the septic system. Electric will be off the utility poles off of Route 3, and gas will be off of Harkney Hill Road. The next plan is actually a couple plans. If we can, that's a lighting plan. So the lighting plan, we're proposing LED lights, and all of the photometrics were shown on that plan, and it was designed to have the dark sky principle, so everything shines downward and it doesn't encroach on the neighbor's property. If we could scroll through the next couple of plans, please. This is a landscape plan. We're providing a variety of street trees, shrubs, and ground cover. There's street trees proposed with shrubbery adjacent to the trees along both Harkney Hill Road and Route 3. It's a variety of different types of trees, and we do have the plant list on the plan on the left-hand side. So and these plans are designed for permitting and for construction. We do need permits from DOT, DEM, stormwater, and septic, and Kent County Water, which we're in the process with the DOT and DEM and Kent County Water. We have submitted plans to the fire marshal. Haven't heard any feedback yet, but from my understanding at the TRC, there was no comments from him. The 2 additional variances that we're requesting is for the traditional building materials in the exterior building material. So as mentioned, we're proposing metal siding. It's like a slate blue with white trim, and there's going to be like a concrete knee wall around it, so there'll be some textural changes. It's going to have a small office with some garage door bays, and we do feel that with that and with the landscaping, it is consistent with the neighbor in the adjacent area. So that's my presentation.
Okay, a couple of things, we got from the fire department.
Okay.
Chief Katie, he put a couple of things. Did they have a copy of that?
You know, I don't know if the applicant received a copy. They're not particularly substantive, but we received late comments from the fire department, not at their fault, but that we did provide to the board. And we had suggested conditions of approval based on the comments. And if it makes sense, because I'm not sure if the applicant is privy to this late-breaking information, I can just read what the staff's suggested conditions of approval are. So one is to ensure maneuverability of fire apparatus, the proposed traffic island restricting traffic exiting on Nooseneck Hill Road to right turn only shall be painted rather than raised with a curb. Such a revision should be included in the final plan application. I'm assuming that there would be no issues with that. We like maintaining the right turn only, but the fire wants to be able to get in there. The other condition is that the applicant shall submit written evidence confirming adequate water availability at the fire hydrants closest to the proposed building with the final plan application. I'll read it one more time. The applicant shall submit written evidence confirming adequate water availability at the fire hydrants closest to the proposed buildings with the final plan application.
Adequate water at the fire hydrants?
Yep. I think he's talking about water pressure availability.
Oh, okay.
So I
The
think he
existing
just wants
hydrants.
he wants to ensure that you've done your due diligence, that the hydrants have adequate pressure for what they're going to need for fire suppression.
So we're not proposing any hydrants, so we can.
No. He's suggesting at the fire hydrants closest to the proposed building, so he must have identified hydrants.
I know there's a
also.
couple in the area.
Let me see, I'm going to read his comments. Fire hydrants, this is what his comment was. Fire hydrants are in close proximity, yet available water at these hydrants for the proposed buildings will need to be confirmed. So he's suggesting existing hydrants. He's just looking for you to confirm. He's using the word available water at these hydrants. I'm assuming that we're ensuring available pressure.
I guess we'll talk to Kent County Water.
That's
I know there's
correct. I think we're just looking for something that you've done your due diligence with Kent County, that those hydrants have the pressure we need.
Okay. I mean, I know it's a 12-inch main on both Hackney Hill Road and Route 3.
Yep.
So, yep.
Also, in the report, the staff is recommending maybe some waivers.
There was.
We actually said that we would support waivers for sidewalks and curbing.
Okay, yes.
Remember, we said we wouldn't have a problem with no sidewalks as long as the state didn't want them, which I doubt they will.
Mr. Chairman, I wanted to raise that issue and the one that the fire department's raising on Route 3, because the state has jurisdiction. They may opt for a curb that's a truck can get over, like
That's actually, thank you, and I was going to say that too, because we have submitted to DOT for the physical alteration permit, and that traffic island, it's not right exactly at the edge of the road, it is inset a couple of feet, and it does have a slope face curb, and we're proposing a hard surface there, so it is drivable. You know, it's not a straight face, it's slope face, but this is the way that we presented it to DOT, so it is in there right away.
I think that what I'll do is basically, I'm going to suggest an amendment to the condition of approval that staff are having, and it's going to read, to ensure a maneuverability of fire apparatus, the proposed traffic island restricting traffic exiting Nooseneck Hill Road to right turn only shall be made up or shall be designed so that vehicles can drive over such this apparatus. I understand that you have multiple permitting agencies, and I don't think we're looking to change what you're doing with DOT. The key is that the fire just wants to know they can get their trucks over.
No, that's understood, and that's the intent of the design as well, with the slope face curbing.
If I could, there is a term, right? Because they put them on the roundabouts, so the tractor trailers can get around. It's I forgot what they call it's a mountable curb or something to that effect. Trucks, and I wanted to also caution, because I observed the same The town may not have an issue with the waivers, but DOT has not waived in. Hockney Hill is a state road as well as Nooseneck, right? So they may say, hey, we want sidewalks, and I don't want to grant the waiver if DOT requires them.
Well, we can say, the town is okay with the waivers.
Right.
The DOT, I doubt they're gonna tell you to put sidewalks, they'll have to maintain them, but in the case that they say they want sidewalks, we have no control over it.
Right. If, we would have to address that comment when it comes through. We've been waiting a long time for DOT to respond, but yeah.
Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, as far as that entrance island that we're talking about, Mr. Barber has some rather large trucks too, so I'm sure it'll be designed so he could get his 10-wheel dump truck towing a trailer in and out of there also. Like you said, that's under RIDOT.
So like when you mentioned the paintable entranceway, I actually thought that was a good idea, so depending on what DOT says on the.
We did not, the fire department did.
Oh, the fire department.
Fire department did,
I
but-
think it's a good idea too, for like you said, with my trucks and trailers too.
Well, like Mr. Colonian said, that's not, that would be RIDOT.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you're gonna have somebody that might try to take a turn when, I mean, look at the ones we've got with curbs. Walgreens is a perfect example. I do it myself. You come out of the drive up, you're forced to go right, so you say, no, I'm going left. There's a break, you take it. And
And they're the drivable, like Mr. Colonian said, mountable curbs or whatever they call them, and all those roundabouts and Apponaug, so trucks can drive over them.
so let's just defer to.
That's it, Mr. Flynn, from me.
I think we're good on it. You know, it's open for public comment, so I will ask if there's any public comment, if you're done with your presentation and the questions. I got a question. All right, go ahead.
Excuse me. I'm just trying to learn. So fortunately, you were here for the previous project. They moved their drainage system. Is that going to interfere with your plans for your septic design?
No.
Okay.
No, it won't. I'm not sure how his site slopes, but this site is almost, it's almost like a bowl. I mean, eventually it does a bowl. It's like there's a low spot on the site. So the drainage system that we have, it's actually designed so it'll infiltrate even up to 100-year storm. There's no outflow up to, so there's no outflow, and we shouldn't impact them. Honestly, I haven't studied their plan. I don't know if they're, you know, if they're infiltrating up to the 100-year storm or not, but I don't think it would impact us.
I was just, like, as I looked at it, it seemed like he moved all his water mediation to where close to your proximity of your septic design. Is that, well, I think that's accurate. I just didn't know if that played in with anything, that's all. Just something to consider.
Yeah, I think the septic system has to be 50 feet from the stormwater basin, but I think there's enough separation from what I can see.
Anybody else? You would want final administrative if it does pass?
Yes, if that's possible. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just going to go to the audience quick if they have anything to say, and you can address it. Name and address, please.
Dale Giansanti, Giansanti, 11 Stewart Drive in Coventry. In regards to the sidewalks, where they don't seem to be an issue, you're approving a whole development right across the street with all these people that are going to be living there. They're going to be dealing with that light, hoping for sidewalks, and here's a building being constructed with no thought of sidewalks. Also, listening to the last issue, it just seems like you continue to put Band-Aids on top of everything that you do. You've got this gentleman that's starting a new construction. Learn from your last issues. Address this now with him. He's got phase 1. What's going to happen in the phase 2 section with all his phase 1 things? They're going to be dumped over there now. Like John is just now going to move all his things to the end across from the cemetery. Okay. It's just a movement around the area, and you all say you live in Coventry, but I'm sure you don't live over there, just as John is not operating in East Greenwich because they would never allow that, but this is allowed. And I just see a continuation of only dealing with the issue at that moment. No thought before. I appreciate some of your suggestions. That's what I'd like to contribute this evening.
Anybody else?
Diane Bryans, 28 Maple Root Road. Okay. Okay, so this is an oil business. I would like to know, how are the trucks going to be filled with their oil? Where do they go, to a separate place? Or is it eventually going to have fills there on that piece of property? That's my first question. Second question is, I also read that they have equipment to remove oil tanks from homes. When those oil tanks get removed and there's still oil in the tank, where does first the tank get brought to, and where is the leftover oil going to? I would like to know why the first Phase 1 building has garage doors on both sides. Is this for trucks to go in this way, right straight through? Which brings me to the point and what you said about coming in off of Nooseneck Hill Road, it's just a right-hand turn. So you're saying coming from the post office, the only way to go in there is to take a right-hand turn in? Is that a one-way? Or can people then go out the other way and then go down to Gentleman Farmer? And I also saw that they have a way to go out of the area onto Hockney Hill Road. Okay. There's a gentleman that works at Family Dollar General, and he sits out on the fence. I'm sure everyone has seen him smoking a cigarette, and he would be the best person to speak to tell you that his parking lot is used as a cut-through, so people don't have to go to the red light. Constantly, cars just take the left, go through Dollar General, come out the other side. So I believe that with you having two ways, two exits in and out, that people in the morning, when their traffic is lined up at that light, that you are going to get people going, cutting through your parking lot. So I don't know if you want to treat the entrance by the right side as a one-way and your other one as an exit, and do something so that cars can't come through. Those are my things.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Hearing none. Anybody on Zoom like to say anything for or against the project? Sure, come on up. Name and address, please.
Patricia Perry, 38 Maple Root Road. Will this business be running any equipment at night?
He has an existing business on Station Street, but I'll let them address that. Thank you. Come on up.
Okay, we'll tag team this, but I'll give it a try. So, the first comment was about the Phase 2 area, what would happen at the Phase 2. I believe the intent is just to leave it as it is. And all of the construction activities for Phase 1 would be in the Phase 1 area. And then once that's complete, there would be no disturbance, I guess, in the Phase 2, or very limited, maybe just to install a utility line. but then there's no plans to have things stored there when phase 1 is complete and phase 2 is not yet built, correct?
For the building, yep, for the building, concerns with the double doors, there's actually a divider in the middle of the building separating two companies. One was for the box trucks, which will be parked in the rear, and the front side is for the oil company, so you won't be able to drive through on that. And what was the other concern she had?
Explain to them that.
Yeah, so all the trucks, most of the trucks will be parked inside except for the larger dump trucks, which is, they leave it early in the morning. They're usually back by 4 or 5 o'clock, so no trucks will be running. There won't be work after hours. If we do get an emergency call at any time, for emergency response we are on the MPA list for the state. We do roadside accidents and spill cleanup. That would be the only time a vehicle may start up, but they're all in a building and they won't be outside running. They'll just load up in the building and they'll just leave the property. When they return, they return.
They asked about get the oil off-site.
Oh, yeah, and as far as oil, there's no storage on site. We do load up at a portal every morning, whether it's right here in town or down in Providence, and most of the time, the trucks will be partly empty. There won't be storage on site.
If you take a tank out, it's not gonna be stored at that property.
Oil tanks, we do bring them back to our site. We use Saturdays. We have to cut, drum. Anytime the tanks come back, they are emptied, pumped empty. There might be a couple inches of residual, just sludge. We do drum all the sludge. We have a company from Stoughton, Massachusetts, in Environmental, which picks up our drums every week. And usually most of the time on Saturdays, we do all that on a Saturday morning. We dispose of all the scrap metal tanks that have been brought back for tank removals during the week. And then the environmental company will come and pick up the drums. But again, nothing's stored on site.
No long-term storage.
No long-term storage.
You do that at your station.
I do that now where we are now, yeah.
There's no issue.
No, everything's drummed in.
I'll let you come up. You can't speak until I tell you to come up. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, and so that's, everything's stored in DOT 17H drums and then taken off-site.
I was just going to say, so if you do that on Saturdays, do you accumulate old storage tanks on site and keep them
Yeah,
outside?
throughout the week, because we do about 6 to 8 removal replacements a day, Monday through Saturday.
So are they going to be stored outside of the building?
Right now, I have a containment area that's fenced in on a concrete or asphalt pad right now where we do store them. And then we do bring them into the building to do the remaining residue cleanout.
So what's going to happen at this site?
Similar.
They'll be fenced and stored outside?
Yeah.
So they won't see?
You won't see it.
They won't see the tanks? And then just to kind of follow up on the, I'm going to start drawing a blank now. Oh, I think what they were talking about with the Phase 2 construction is while this building is being constructed, you're going to continue to operate at your other sites until the building is completely up and ready to
it's up
go.
and ready to go.
It's not like you say, well, I don't have room at my other site, so I'm going to have to leave stuff here and it's going to sit outside, kind of like the first applicant, because I think that's really the issue. He doesn't have enough space right now, so he's bringing stuff there.
I
and
might just
storing
have
it
an
outside.
excavator and a backhoe. That's all I need. 2 pieces of equipment, and then during the construction, there may be a lull and some material-based stuff and some dumpsters.
During construction.
Yeah, so,
But you won't be using the property until.
no, I won't be using it until it's done and we're ready to move in 100%.
And is there a break between the first building and the other? I know we talked about Phase 1 and Phase 2, so
Could be a year or so before, I just want to get in there, get up and running and be able to have some room before the Phase 2 is just an afterthought. I just put it into the plan now, just so we don't have to go through another year of this later on.
So you envision building the first building for your business with the 2 doors on either side that don't go through, as you just said, and when that's up and running, at some point in the future, minimum of 6 months, most likely a year or more, you will start putting up the other buildings
Correct.
as there's a demand for whatever's going to be housed in there.
Right.
Okay.
One thing to add to that, if I may, oh, I'm sorry,
No, go ahead.
is, Mr. Barber did say that there was a fence, and there is a fence proposed on the plan too. It's between building 1 and the basin. If I can show you.
Similar to what I have on Station Street.
And there's a pad there, and that's all regulated by DEM and so forth. And I'm just putting that on the record because I'm sure it is. I had an oil tank removed, yep.
Go ahead, John. I'm just a little bit confused here. If you're dealing with oils and contamination, that's a special DEM permit?
No, it's a non-haz solid waste. It's a non-hazard solid waste.
Oil is a non-hazard solid waste?
Correct. Once it hits the ground and it's in the soil and stuff, it's considered a
Or is it in the soil?
it's a non-hazard, because all we have is sludge, so it's still considered a non-hazard solid
You
waste.
don't need a containment system with a clean out?
Nope.
A drain that needs to be inspected and
No.
special?
I don't have any product on site. It's just cleaning the sludge, scraping the tanks so we can dispose them at a scrapyard. And it's just, we only create maybe 150 gallons of sludge at a time before it's gone. And that's only 3 55-gallon drums, and it's disposed of off-site.
Anybody else?
So it's,
Go ahead, Mr.
it's in
Reddy.
and out, weekly, in and out, gone. All right.
Through the chair, I just want to add one comment. From staff's perspective, I don't believe the outdoor storage of materials such as, deconstructed oil tanks is an allowed use in the zone. So that might have been an idea, but it's one we should discuss because we don't see it as something that is allowed. Indoor storage, yes. Outdoor storage, no. We didn't see anywhere in the
So it's just steel, it's, what do they call it? It's just like a number 2 unprepared steel, and we just bring it to a scrapyard every week.
Yeah.
I can't dispose of it every day. I don't drive by the scrapyard every day, so we do it on the weekend. We have a crew that comes in and they take everything to the scrapyard on a Saturday. It's, like I said, right now we have it contained in a fence. There's no leakage, none of that stuff. The tanks are empty. And we bring them inside when we do cut and clean them before we dispose of them.
So you're indicating that you would have an area on this site that would be fully fenced in and screened for the storage of outdoor storage?
Correct, we just stand them out on end and
Yeah.
line them up.
Can you show me on the site plan where your intent was to store
We
these?
don't have that yet because we haven't, I need to see my layout and see where I can fit all the trucks and stuff.
Yeah.
All it is 2 fence sections by 2 fence sections, similar to what I have now.
Understood. Yeah, I'd think that
Back behind building 1, probably.
my concern is that we're just learning now that there's an intent to do outdoor storage, which as we're looking through the code, we don't see that as an allowed use. And I understand that it's just steel, but
No, but
it's outdoor.
not storage. It's not product storage. That was the thing, and the thing was product storage. We're not storing product.
You might be placing deconstructed oil tanks for a period of up to a week somewhere on the site.
Correct. Empty, deconstructed steel.
I mean, I would say when you're leaving them there more than a day, then we're going to consider some degree of storage is happening, even if it's less than a week. That's something that we should have a discussion on in terms of its use allowance. This is news to staff, that there's an intent for outdoor storage.
I don't see, there's no, like I said, they're empty. There's no storage. It's not like, the product storage. It's just, it's no different than backhoes, skid steers, and, plow equipment.
Well,
But they're more
vehicles is different than the storage of materials.
So I can't have stock, like my tanks that are brand new too?
You're intending to store tanks outside as well?
Well, they might be stock. I don't know, depending on how much room we have interior, they come on pallets, they load them, I pick them up at the supply house, and we bring back 10 tanks at a time, so I don't have to go every day.
Where and how long do you think storage of new tanks would be on the site?
I install 25 to 30 a week.
So you think there'd be 20 to 30 tanks at any given time?
I have 12 tanks every other day delivered, so I can get, because I do 8 to 10, 8 of them a day.
And then where was your intent to store these on the site?
Possibly the new ones would be inside.
I mean, inside,
My plan, 'cause
inside's not an
That's
issue.
why I'm getting a larger building here.
Yeah, it's the outdoor storage that we're focused on.
Yeah, so I'm hoping to get them inside. I'm hoping I have enough room in between the trucks to line them,
Well,
similar to I do now.
I mean, I think, one is,
Or I can pick up a container, shipping container, and that's considered indoor, right? No.
we can't, shipping containers not an allowed building just to stay on the site for any period of time. I mean, you'll have, 3 buildings that are equipped to do indoor storage of a variety of things. My suggestion is, I don't think that staff is prepared to weigh in formally as to whether any outdoor storage of materials is allowed. Vehicles are a different thing. You park a vehicle somewhere, that's understood. Storing materials is not something that, from our quick review of the code, is allowed as a use. I understand if something's there for a few days, but that it's different to have a repetitive pattern where on any given day, there's an expected area where there would be storage of materials. That, to me, would be something that needs to be better clarified, but I think it's just for the record. Our understanding is that what we're approving is the uses you propose, which are uses that are allowed, which is the buildings and the indoor storage and operation inside of the buildings. What we're approving today doesn't include the outdoor storage. That would require some further discussion, and we'd need to take a much closer look at code to be able to weigh in on that.
Is it considered storage when it's like a revolving door and it's gone in less than 5 days?
I mean, you're using the site as staging, and if there's always some amount of materials that are there, then yeah, I would say that's storage. That's it. That's the solution. I mean, they're going to have 3 buildings, and I know you've got an intent to build one building first, see where it goes. I know you have an intent to build the other buildings. My thought is, all the buildings are capable of a lot of storage. My suggestion is we should begin exploring how you can create an opportunity within those buildings to do the storage you need to in a way that works for your business. The whole, the concept of a revolving door.
I have enough room I got an area that's big enough on the back side of the offices where I could store them all indoor if I had to, if that's what you recommend.
I think,
I'll just put them indoor.
what I'm suggesting is that I don't want you to walk away with an approval for something, conduct your business in a way that actually represents a use violation that's not allowed.
Well, I have enough room.
Yeah, understood. No, I was just suggesting, I just want to make sure you walk away today understanding what we're approving, which we're not, the idea is what we're approving today isn't outdoor storage, even if it's, let's just say, less than a week, even if it's materials that go in one day and a different material comes in the other. That was not something that we're approving today. But we can certainly have a discussion offline about what your intent is, what the business need is, how it can be accomplished through allowed uses in the design.
Yeah, like I said, I'll just store them inside, that's fine. I have enough room inside to do it.
Could I just ask a question? So just along the line, it's because this is in a general business zone. And it would be the same as if somebody was storing a mulch pile that got delivered on a Monday and they slowly dug at it. And then another mulch pile was delivered the following week, and maybe firewood, the same type of thing.
I would actually say the use that he's going for, a mulch pile is allowed for a landscaping business. I mean, just right next door, there's an area designated with storage of mulch materials. But for this, what he's proposing, the uses that are being proposed, and particularly the storage of, steel, I don't know if I'd use the word equipment, steel materials, that's not something that our code anticipates. I mean, I know he's not trying to run a junkyard, and I know that's not his intent, but the idea is that that's where these kind of things can go. You're putting all your excess materials somewhere, they end up outside on the site. Even if it's a rotating, there's an area of the site that just looks like, it's a junkyard. That is something we should have a discussion on in terms of how that operation could fit, what would the use allowances be, how would a screen need to be monitored. I don't see on the site right now, a screened area, 360 degrees, so I wasn't sure where the goal was to accommodate that. Those are the discussion points that we need to have with them, but I want them to make sure that they understand that's not something that is incorporated in this board's decision tonight.
Like I said, I have no problem keeping them inside.
Yeah, we can talk, Andrew.
You'll have final administrative, so
15 tanks.
that's what they have requested.
Yeah, I'm still comfortable doing final administrative, and yeah, we need a, just want to make sure we can take a closer look at that, and, we want to keep you within the boundaries of allowed uses, and you don't walk away with a missed expectation.
Anybody else like to come up? Sure.
Patricia Perry, 38 Maple Root Road. Maple Root Road has a watershed provision because it's so close to the pond. And, we need to, if you're going to store anything with sludge or something like that and a piece of equipment outside that's got oil that's being disposed of, I just want to bring that up.
That's exactly what our staff is. Anybody else? Come on up, sir.
Jackie Bryans, 28 Maple Root Road, and I won't get as emotional this time as I did before. We don't know what your business.
Just address the board, please.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And then they'll answer the question.
We don't know what his business is. We understand it's something to do with oil, but we have no idea what he does. So maybe if he explained to us what he does, we would know what to object to and what not to. So if that would be all right.
So if most of you just don't know who I am, sorry. So if most of you don't know who I am, I own A. Barber Environmental and Richard's Oil over here on Station Street. My main line of business before I got into Richard's Oil was the A. Barber Environmental and Excavating, where we are a remediation, contaminated soil and oil excavation cleanup company. We do underground and above ground oil tank installation and removal with, we're on the MPA with the state for Rhode Island hazardous petroleum-related emergencies and oil-related spills. And I've been doing this since 1999 and have a pretty good reputation with it, if any of you know who I am. What was it? And yeah, so about 5 years ago, I purchased Richard's Oil because I was already in the oil industry with the replacements of the oil tanks and service with the oil spill cleanups. So I expanded my business a little bit by getting into the service and home heating oil deliveries. And we do deliver oil, we do service boilers. We don't do replacements. We're more of a service and oil delivery company also.
Name and address, please.
Roger Leclerc, Leclerc, 8 Maple Root Road. Mr. Barber, I'm one of your customers, so. I only have one more question with regards to between Proscape and his property line. Is there any kind of buffer? Because those properties abut one another. I'm sure you guys, if you've walked there, you've noticed that. So I didn't know if there's anything going to be between those two large parcels of areas in terms, because now you can see Maple Root Road, we're getting bombarded with a lot of activity. We've got the condos coming, we have this going on, and it's like we had this quiet street, and now we are getting overwhelmed with a lot of activity. So I'm just wondering, I know we're going to have from Proscape in terms of the arborvitaes, again, I'm not sure how far, if they're going towards the cemetery or.
Go up to the cemetery.
Okay, so, but he's right. And I know that piece of property abuts him in the corner where Proscape continues on Maple Root Road. I'm very familiar with the area, of course. But I was just wondering, because as we walk down now, you can see, again, once the arborvitaes are up, but I'm just wondering if he's going to have a buffer between all of his equipment that was here, Mr. Pontarelli, and now we're gonna have all his equipment in those supposedly eventually 3 large buildings. So that's my only question. All right, thank you.
Want to come up? I think you did mention the landscape design, and most of his apparatus will be inside.
Yes, we do have a landscape plan that's in the set. Just along the streets, we do have street trees and shrubbery. On the west side of the property that faces Maple Root, the Maple Root area, we have that stormwater basin, which is going to be vegetated. We are proposing some shade trees along the property line between stormwater basin and the property line. And there is some existing trees that are there as well. That if there's existing trees that are not within the stormwater basin, if it's on Mr. Barber's property, I think they're right
on the property.
right on the property line. Yeah, so we're not proposing to cut those trees on the property line.
Okay, thanks. Come on up. I'm going to wrap this up soon.
I get it.
We're getting redundant.
Patricia Perry, 38 Maple Root Road. I have 3 questions. One, I would love to know why you're leaving your current site, if you want to give us that information. 2, I'm worried about what Phase 2 buildings are going to be used for. I want to know that they're not going to be rented out to other people. I want to know what you're using them for. And 3, if you are doing some kind of toxic soil business, is that occurring here as well?
Come on up. For one, I don't think we can say you can't rent the building.
No, just asking.
I don't think he's not there yet.
No, I don't, my plans are yeah, so right now, the reason I'm leaving my existing building is because I don't have enough room for the trucks, and I've been renting off of my neighbor for parking for employees. So, and right now, they're starting to, giving me a hard time for having so many vehicles on their property, and it interferes with their business. As far as, what was the other question? Oh, I never bring work home with me per se. Any remedial work that is taking place is usually on a site, off-site from here. We, as protocol, you're not allowed to remove any type of contaminated soil from that site and go to unless it's going to an approved facility. So it'll never be stockpiled, brought to my site or on my property at any time. And as far as the other buildings, that's just so if I need more storage to keep my trucks inside, because I like to keep everything neat inside, stored out of the weather. And that's the reason for the other buildings, just in case I run out of interior space.
And for the record, I want to be clear, because I know what you just said about the use of the buildings. There is the potential that some of the Phase 2 buildings may be utilized by maybe other entities for their own storage purposes. Is that an option? Because I want to make sure you're not.
It's always an option. I mean, if I don't need all the bays and it's a little more residual income to rent out one of them, but I have my own contingencies outside of yours where nothing would be outside. It'll be more for, people storing their boats in the winter. I have a few friends that ask me, hey, do you mind if I store my cars, my boats, stuff like that? It won't be an active work site.
Understood, yeah, and I think that's important for the record. That's an allowed use. It's one of the uses that you've proposed here is basically that storage use. Our decision wouldn't control you in terms of how many different entities could be there. You basically have shown us the space and it can be used for those purposes. So I just wanted to make sure for the record you didn't limit yourself to your own business only.
Yeah, and we come in the morning, everybody loads up, they're gone. The site's pretty quiet until 3:30. Everybody comes in with their trucks, they park, might wash a vehicle and go home. So we're out of there usually by 5 o'clock.
Yeah, and then my last question, it's a little off topic, but Is there any reason why you would have any issues with the same types of conditions that you had heard earlier about no running of equipment between certain hours? That doesn't seem to be as an issue for you, but you would have no concerns with that.
I have no concerns. The only issue is like I said, being that I'm an emergency state responder, they could call me at 2 a.m. and I might have to take a couple of box trucks and just go. There won't be trucks idling outside or any of that because all of my stuff's stored inside. So we load up inside, we open the door, we leave, and you know, it's a pretty quiet in-out operation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Come on up.
18 Maple Root Road, Andrew Mitroni. Just one other question, comment he made that they were possibly going to be like washing the trucks and whatnot. I just want to make sure that in the plan it is noted that, you know, if there's oil residue on the trucks, is that going to be, you know, drained somewhere? How does that work? Just some questions.
I'll let the applicant speak to that.
Most of the trucks, like I said, are oil delivery trucks. They're not saturated in oil. It's no different than a vehicle that you're washing at your house. I mean, sometimes the guys may get a little oil on the back of the truck, but most of the time it's wiped off with oil absorbent pads, and we have a degreaser. And most of the other trucks that will be washed are just box trucks and the dump trucks. There's not any worry of hazardous, and all the soap we use is just regular car soap.
And for the record, Mr. Barber, I mean, this is the business you're in. You're aware of all the restrictions, regulations provided at the state level, the licensing, you know, so you're well aware that you know how to stay within that as a professional in this industry. Understood.
If I could comment, he runs a tight ship on Station Street. I have to say that. The building always looks exceptional, much better than when it was a fire department building.
And I'd just like to add too, because I remember at master plan, the response, we asked the same thing about the other two buildings, and there's nothing, the same discussion. You were very forthright and said, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do, but I may let someone else use the space, and that's fine.
Yeah, I think I'm ready for a motion. Come on up. Did you get it? I'm sorry if I forgot.
I remember her question with that. Yeah, so your concern was people using it as a cut-through? So, I mean, I can't stop people from doing a cut-through. I see what you're saying, but I'm a long cut-through if you're trying to cut through my property to beat a red light. The reason we have the second, entrance is because we don't have an in and out coming onto Route 3 because of the double lane trafficking. We don't want to have to cross 2 lanes of traffic to pull out into 2 lanes of traffic. So that's kind of a one-way in from both directions. And our way out as a safer route would be to come out to get the red light so we can cross the 2 lanes, or possibly take the left onto Harkney Hill and go down towards that direction. And as you can see, once we get up and running and developed with the fencing and stuff, it'll probably deter people from wanting to cut through. And I'm gonna leave right now, it'll probably stay vegetated. And I'll deal with that problem as it occurs if I feel like people are coming through, because it's a danger for us if people are coming through too. So I would address it at that time somehow.
Thank you. You good? I'll entertain a motion.
And briefly through the chair, I just want to indicate the conditions of approval that would be part of this. Obviously, the conditions of approval are already part of the staff report. The additions would be what you received regarding the fire conditions, with the note that instead of it saying shall be painted, it shall be designed to allow vehicles to drive over. That was that condition related to the island for the turning. That we will have a condition of approval that no running of equipment between the hours of 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. And I'd like to add a condition of approval that any planting trees shall be replanted if they die at the applicant's expense.
Okay.
I'm sorry, and I have one last piece. My staff is reminding me, You'll note in the staff report that the applicant had suggested, that we have a variance that suggests that there shall not be any wall of the building that's uninterrupted, meaning that there's not a door or a window or an architectural intrusion. We're suggesting that the applicant should seek a relief for that. Yeah, this would be particularly for the faces of the buildings that are facing, not where their garage doors are. The applicant suggested that they could just introduce windows or relief. It seemed to us that that might actually not necessarily, along the backsides of these buildings, that might not be serving a great purpose, that we suggested seeking relief. Now, that relief has been noticed, so it's authorized for the board to provide that relief. We wanted to provide that clarification that instead of seeking those introductions or those windows where they don't need to be, we just allow the relief for that. I'll let the applicant speak if they have a different vision of that. Okay.
Okay, I think we're ready for motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll take a stab at this. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the preliminary plan by AJB Real Estate LLC, applicant Andrew Barber for property at 71 Hockney Hill Road, located in the General Business 1 Zone, 2.2 acres. It's Assessors Plat 10, Lot 42. This is for the commercial office and equipment storage buildings as shown on the plan. I would like to reference the findings of fact and the staff's report that we were provided tonight. And I would like to make that motion with the following conditions of approval. Right out of the gate, that they can proceed to final approval administratively, that the preliminary plan approval is conditioned upon strict adherence to the associated dimensional variance applications as presented and approved, that the applicant will modify the proposed traffic island such that it allows for passage of emergency vehicles, that the applicant shall verify that with Kent County Water, that there's adequate water availability and pressure at the closest fire hydrant to the buildings that are proposed.
Chairman, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I didn't want you to keep going. I think the law requires that you vote on the variance first.
Okay.
So,
We'll make a motion on the variance.
Yeah.
then you make a second motion. I
Okay.
didn't want you to go through that whole.
No, that,
Waiver in the second motion?
The waiver goes in second motion, but
The variance.
the variance is going the first motion.
Okay.
yeah,
All right, and that's just the dimensional variance?
it's a dimensional variance, and it's 3 counts of variance. It's about building materials, and actually that finds itself twice in the code. And then the other one is the fact that certain sides of this building will not have interruptions. Staff is comfortable with the variances as they've been presented through the information.
Entertain a motion on the variances as written by staff.
Yeah, is this what's shown in the report here where it says dimensional variance and then?
Yep, yeah, you'll see the findings. We have a separate section of the report that's just for the variance findings. You could just reference the findings as they're in the report and consider the motion based on that.
Okay, I was trying to isolate the 3 because I see 5, but it's confusing, I'm sorry.
No, it's all right.
So I would like to make a favorable motion to approve the variances as presented in the findings of fact in the director's report, as we just discussed.
Okay, I have a motion on the variances. Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Second by Mr. Smith. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries on the variances. Next.
Should I start over?
Yeah.
No problem.
No, I'm glad you caught that.
Okay, so I would like to make a motion to approve the preliminary plans submitted by the applicant Andrew Barber, the owner AJB Real Estate LLC, for Assessors Plat 10, Lot 42, located at 71 Hockney Hill Road. That's the General Business Zone 1, 2.2 acres, for the proposed commercial office and equipment storage buildings as shown on the plan that was presented tonight. I would also like to incorporate the staff report and the findings of fact that we were provided. The approval comes with the following, that final plan approval may proceed administratively, that the preliminary plan approval is conditioned upon strict adherence to the associated dimensional variance applications as presented and approved, that the applicant shall modify the proposed traffic island to provide passage by emergency vehicles, that the applicant shall verify that there's adequate water and availability and pressure at the fire hydrants closest to the proposed buildings. The applicant shall submit a revised site plan with its final plan application containing the following: a dumpster enclosure shown for the Phase 1 portion of the site, a statement affirming the plans have been drawn to Class 1 standards, evidence that all required state and local permits shall be submitted with the final plan application. The engineer of record shall submit a certificate of conformance prior to issuance of a certificate of occupancy for the proposed buildings, and upon project completion, the certificate of conforming, COC, from the engineer of record shall be required. The certificate of conformance shall certify the constructed project meets all required standards, regulations, specifications, and the permitting and construction documents. It shall also be focused on site civil-related work. Work includes but is not limited to the drainage system components, earth grading, roadway subbase, pavement and curbing, concrete flat work, underground utilities, sewer, electric, water, survey markers, monuments, fire cisterns, signage, fencing, landscaping. And the engineer shall partner with qualified subconsultant to perform necessary inspection-related duties. If the engineer does not perform these duties in-house, all coordination between the engineer of record and inspection subconsultant shall be finalized before construction commences, and a certificate of occupancy will not be issued until that certificate of conformance is received and accepted by the town.
I'd like to add the waiver of windows as suggested by staff.
That's actually one of the variances we
That's on
approved.
the variance.
That's a variance from one of the special overlay district.
We're good.
Yep.
Good with that.
All right, can I have a motion?
I thought there was also, no operation between 10 and 7.
Yeah, and then the couple that I added late, no running of equipment between 10 PM to 7 AM.
No running of equipment between 10 PM and 7 AM.
And then I think it was, if any trees that die shall be replanted at the applicant's expense.
And any landscaping that was planted shall be replaced by the applicant at their expense.
Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, he wanted 10 to 7. I was going to try to cover that.
Yeah,
It doesn't mean he can't go to the building and get a piece of equipment and take it out.
Running equipment is not the same thing as turning a vehicle on and leaving. It's a, part of the use. I want to make sure that neither this applicant nor anybody else that might utilize one of the buildings understands that they can't be operating a use that's running equipment on the site. Turning a vehicle on and leaving the site with a vehicle is not an issue.
I'll amend my motion to say running of equipment on site between 10 PM and 7 AM.
Okay, I have a motion.
Mr. Chairman, one more point. Ms. Colonian mentioned about the waiver for the sidewalks for the town only, and obviously this is a state highway. It's really, the state is, in other words, the town's really not waiving them. We can't impose them.
It's really up to the state.
We can't impose a sidewalk on the state highway.
We're not suggesting that a sidewalk, from the town's perspective, should be built there. It is the state's permitting authority. The town's basically suggesting from our end, we're comfortable that there's not going to be a sidewalk on Harkney.
Okay, so I have a,
And the reason I didn't include that is honestly because then they'll take this approval and go to the state and say, see, the town said we didn't need it. And they don't like that. So I'm going to let the state make the call. It's a state road.
thank you.
The town will just have to maintain it.
Yeah, I don't think the state was looking for one here, but I think that if the town insisted, the state might entertain it. It's the opposite. The town's not insisting, so.
I have a motion, I have a second by Mr. Reyes. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Motion to adjourn? Oh, no.
Did that on Town Farm Road, remember? Were you there? And then it's the cut through, we had the same night we had the Town Farm Road housing. We had enough.
I think I can get started. You'll see under Director's Report, I listed 4 items. Really, this was to allow for the conversation to happen. I don't plan to hit all of these items, but I'll give a quick highlight on things that are coming. The majority of immediate next steps that staff are planning are some targeted amendments to the subdivision regulations. This is a process in which the board and just the Planning Commission and just the commission is the authority. This is, Alex, do you mind shutting that door? So the idea here is that this is your preview. The next time you see it, it may be because we've noticed it and we're prepared to have an actual binding vote to amend it. So as your quick preview, a lot of the changes we wish to make are to improve our roadway standards. Those standards would basically talk about the widths of roadways. We're frequently comfortable with waiving or reducing roadway widths down. Those standards would likely work with a different approach. Right now, we have a standard that, depending on the zone you're in, you would need a certain degree of roadway width and a treatment within that roadway width. We want to move in a direction where it's not dependent on the zone you're in, it's dependent on the size of the project and the needs of the particular project. This is moving us into an area of more kind of best practices with what's being done by other communities. We also want to look at the subsurface materials and dimensions of how roads are laid out. The current standards need some slight tweaks, and we're going to also revise to point to specific DOT standards that they hold for clarity. Oftentimes, we end up with these types of dimensions and materials anyway, but it has to, sometimes it goes back and forth between an applicant and Joe, the town engineer, in order to get what we want. We'd rather just make it very clear and the standards up front. We'd rather make sure that all the standards point to the correct DOT materials grades, the correct DOT standards. A lot of what we're going to do is just to make sure the materials are quality, that we don't ever have to fight with an applicant to get a quality subsurface grade of material, and that we're getting the right approach to roadway widths where we want them. One of them is that we have a right-of-way width of 60 feet in the R20 zone. We'd like to reduce that down to 50. We don't find that we're ever really in need of a 60-foot right-of-way width. A lot of the details we can, they'll be prepared for you and presented at a future meeting. This might be coming in May or June, depending on our workload, but I wanted to give you a heads up on some of those. There'll be other minor cleanups. And one worth noting is we are looking to change our approach for allowed vehicles for bonding. We're going to have you consider removing letters of credit, but allowing multiple options for bonding still, and that will be consistent with state law. Just wanted you all to be aware of that before you saw it in front of you and in terms of a detailed approach, and that you weren't sure where it came from. I'm very happy to take any initial questions on the direction staff are thinking. In many ways, we're just looking to improve it, move to more of a best practices method, move to what I think some of the other communities around us that are doing this pretty well in terms of how they're controlling what roadway widths we should have, and put that in our code as well. Any questions about that?
Just, I know in the past, from the 60-foot right away, if you go to 50, you could actually have more units on the project.
Yeah.
Because of the right of way.
Yeah, I mean,
I know that's why we kind of kept it at 60, so we wouldn't be increasing units. That was the only thing. That's why it stayed at 60. But we had talked about, in fact, I think there was a contradiction in some of the zoning that it stayed at 50. But that's why we kept 60.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that everywhere else we do 50. We haven't seen a need at a staff level for a 60-foot right-of-way. I mean, we typically, I understand the concept of a wider right-of-way tends to limit your ability to develop, but we haven't seen a need for it from an infrastructure perspective, and that's really what the intent of a right-of-way is. You could make the right-of-way a 200-foot right-of-way and basically remove a lot of development potential across the town, but that's not the intent of what the right-of-way is. If you want to remove development potential, change your zoning and tell people that, there's a new rule that, you can't develop within whatever. A right-of-way should be discussing what we plan to do for infrastructure and improvements within that area. No, oftentimes we consider waivers, and anytime any applicant wishes to seek some relief from a standard in the subdivision regulations, we handle that as a waiver. Yeah. Yeah. The board might know better than me if we've ever waived below 50. Yep.
give you one other thing that's come up. I happen to have an opportunity to tour an asphalt plant. Someone that, it's a regional company, they do business in Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. They use recycled asphalt in their mix, and it's a trend, and it's supposed to be much less costly, and in their mind, more durable than the asphalt. But DOT in Rhode Island has not bought into that standard. Massachusetts and Connecticut has. So I just don't know what the town engineer thoughts. But again, if it's gonna hold up better and cost developers less money, it might be an option. But I don't know how you'd put it in there if we're just gonna point to the DOT.
I'm gonna ask the town engineer that question. What is, it's a recycled,
They mix it in.
they mix in a recycled what?
They take recycled asphalt and they store it on their site at the asphalt plant, and they mix that with the new asphalt instead of fresh aggregate, and it's much less costly. And according to their material test, the quality tester, it holds up better.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's true to that. I went to one presentation. The jury's still out, but I know DOT hasn't accepted it. And if it holds up better and it's cheaper, the question is, why aren't we using it? And again, it would be, if the town engineer would have to contact, it's actually Lynch in Cumberland, and speak to their quality control people up there and find out if the town wanted to put that in there as an option. But again, I don't know what standard they'll use to test it, because the on-site tester that they have up there, there's a DOT personnel that's got a lab up there, and then Lynch has got their own quality control lab. So I don't know how we spec it.
Yeah, I think I'll bring that idea to him. I know that he was in many ways pointing to RIDOT standards because it's a standard that, it is. It's easy, and it also gives us all a barometer for something that the state has agreed is quality. That doesn't mean that we can't point to another standard here and there, or that he could have a caveat that, that it shall meet the RIDOT standard or contain a mix, and then we can do a little research. I don't mind. This is the time where we want those ideas. We want to understand what we should look at, and we'll bring it to you. That idea of recycled asphalt mixed in with the new, I'll bring to him, see if he's familiar, see if he wants to look into it a little bit and wants to point to some optionality in our code. In terms of the question on street trees, you might know better than me. I haven't lived through enough subdivisions with new roadways. My understanding is that in a residential context where there's new street trees, generally we're getting them within the 50 feet right of way, so they become they're part of the town property. But there's a lot of times where I see projects that we're doing. I'm looking at that one right there where the street trees are basically being provided on the private property. That makes sense when you're right next to two state right of ways and there's an existing built environment to work around, that you would put the trees on your property. In many ways, when in a residential context where, we're getting them, if you put them on private property, a residential user at some point might say, I want to cut that tree down, it's on my property. And it's like, well, that's we don't want that option. We don't want residential users thinking they have the option to cut down those trees. They're being provided as a public amenity, as a community benefit. We want to know that they're being maintained as such. Yeah. So he waited till residents occupied the house and then they started to make their own plantings. Yeah. Yeah. It can be an issue here and there. Sometimes we get neighbors that call and say, I don't like where they put the tree. And I say, well, work with the developer and maybe, I don't mind if the tree shifts around a little. Well, I don't want the tree at all. And I say, well, that's not really your choice. The tree's not there for you. I know it looks like it's in your yard. I know it looks like it's in my front yard. I didn't want it. That tree's there to provide an aesthetic for the town, that we're trying to maintain a consistent approach. Yeah, no, we love to tell a developer, you're going to plant it on our property, and then the residential property owner or an HOA is going to have to take over for all the maintenance. But thank you very much for making our town beautiful. Like that's the normal approach. I put on here special overlay planning district or special planning overlay district. Staff do struggle a little bit with the code we have on color there. I think that you heard, the idea is there shall not be, it was like, it shall be low reflective and shall be neutral or earth tones. I mean, a neutral color. And the other piece of this is that I want you to imagine that special planning overlay, it applies to all buildings, even existing buildings. Anyone, that wanted to paint their building bright pink, technically they're creating a zoning violation. However, we get new development all the time that, I would say is not providing a strict compliance to earth-toned colors or neutral colors all the time. And that's not to say it's inappropriate. It's fine if a new restaurant opens up and they've got a red awning. We wouldn't want the whole building painted red, but the color red, some might say, well, that's not neutral or earth-toned. But that's not to say we want to go out and be finding anytime a piece of red, shows up on a building, we turn it into a color compliance issue. Color's a difficult issue to, correctly enforce consistently. I like where the code was headed with some degree of control around wanting to make sure new buildings had some thought around it and that we can have a conversation. Staff might need to consider how that's worded because, we're not trying to turn everybody that puts a red awning on their building into a zoning violation. What's that?
At that place yesterday.
Yeah. Yep. So, you might end up seeing some changes from staff. It was fresh on our minds because we were working with these two applications. And it's kind of odd. You got a guy here that, was proposing a certain color for their building that was discussed, a new building that's not built yet. And I almost heard, some groans about, I don't know. It's like, listen, everyone might have a different perspective on what's an appropriate color, but we're not going to turn this into, you pick from these three colors the town has. We're not trying to have that kind of dogmatic approach. We might have a change there. While it was fresh in your heads, I wanted to know if anybody else had an opinion on that. Our goal is to have some degree of control over it so that we know we can avoid bright colors and that with new buildings especially.
Show them what color the building was going to be, the trees, fences, all that kind of stuff. But color was an issue, and I had to show them. Tom Cronin represented me.
There should have been a little more aesthetics to it or something.
Maybe we should
If we could
actually,
avoid that somehow.
actually
Incorporate that into our process.
So other planning boards do. Yes, that's right. Make them submit a color palette with their plan.
And this developer, well, there was a developer who has provided, a color that, the board had considered, In this case, without getting any details, because there's, this isn't in front of us for formal, but there was a color suggestion of a blue. They gave us a blue on a plan, and then, you could play the game of, well, the blue that went on the building is slightly different than the color on the plan. And these things turn into really, like, I don't think staff or the board's intention is, the hue isn't quite right. We want to know general areas. I think where staff might be headed is that I don't mind with new buildings that we might have, this approach where we get to maybe see that. I don't mind, staff can ask the applicants to provide their color. I don't want to get too dogmatic with the hue is a little different because, that's a difficult thing to take a record from a meeting and apply it to a color.
The building that was gonna be red and we asked if we could go earth tone, remember?
Yeah.
The building is, but yeah, we didn't want it red.
Yeah, and I like that. What I'd want to avoid is the way the color code is interpreted. Now, keep in mind, that's a large stretch of Tioga. anytime anyone changes an awning on Tioga and the color isn't determined to be the exact kind of color we would approve for a new building, we don't want to turn that into a violation everywhere. So I think staff sees there as an opportunity to like differentiate between new buildings and existing buildings and being a little thoughtful there. Because what I don't want to do is start chasing someone over a color issue and they say, what about these other 12 buildings down the street that have the same color or brighter or more, you know, and it might not be the whole building, it might be an awning. And we might say, that's fine for an awning. The code doesn't tell us that. The code just says, don't do any of those colors at all. So we think we need a little, before we kind of keep going down the path of how staff might have a difficult time enforcing color, it's a lot easier to approach it with new buildings than it is to how would we approve color for all of existing buildings of changes that happen over time. I do agree. I mean, the code that we have currently says no metal buildings. So if someone wants a metal building like has been approved, we consider a variance and we make sure we're comfortable. You know, we have applicants that have provided us, here's the intent of my color. And, you know, I don't want to play the game of we're reading a color that they emailed to us and then we printed and then we're holding up and then whatever ends up on the building is a slight different hue. You know, that's a difficult game to play, you know? Yeah, it's almost as if like, well, the record needs to have an exact color hue, you know, that's not really built into how we do land use decisions. Now, that being said, I don't mind having those conversations with new developers, new buildings. Are we interested in a metal building here? You know, there's times where you look at the surrounding context and you'll say a metal building in this spot might be fine and another spot might not be. That's why a variance gives you case by case ability to consider those. What? Yep. You absolutely can deny them. Now, the issue is this. Yeah, I understand the point. Practically speaking, you're like, why? But the idea is that there's a reason why those metal buildings are there, and it's because the code said one thing. The town, in its wisdom, said, listen, if that's where the interest is, if the types of uses that want to be here are relying on that, and we're not seeing competing other interests. We're not seeing people wanting to bring different uses that traditionally might have a different look. I mean, I think we're trying to react to where the development interest is, where the market is saying what should go in those areas, and I think we're just trying to react appropriately. I don't mind having the metal code being how it is. That's easy to interpret, it's easy to enforce, and it's easy to have a clear variance if we think there's a process. The color can be very unwieldy. Yeah.
They're vastly different. If you remember
Yeah.
the Washington Trust Bank building, they were very thoughtful. And then the examples I know is if you go to East Greenwich, right? I remember they built a Centerville Bank there, and they told them wood siding, no vinyl, grids in the windows. It's going to have all these things.
Yeah.
The point is, you're right, but you almost want to break it up because I think the section between Sandy Bottom and the end of South Main Street is vastly different from where South Main Street extends out to where we were today, where the road widens out and you're just not seeing those small retail businesses expand.
Yeah,
And again, I'm not trying to make work or
yeah.
it's tough when you're already halfway, you're already in the hole.
Yeah. Well, I see that point, that in one way, we want Tioga to be a place where we're amenable to business. And by Tioga, I mean also the extension towards Nooseneck. We want to be amenable to business. What wants to be here, we don't want to make it difficult. At the same time, I think we're interested in, well, let's create some sense of place here. Because this, Tioga really serves as a central corridor for us. We don't want it to look terrible. And we're trying to do both things. And it turns out that there's an end of Tioga where I think we could have a heightened focus on design, and we really lean into these standards. And there's an end of Tioga or an end of Nooseneck where we might be more loose and offer variances. We might not be ready to like slice and dice it in terms of how the code is. It might be fine the way it is, where we're just more permissive and variances tend to happen more in certain areas. It's always case by case. I think what you'll see from us as staff is we'll probably, the one thing I do want to change is apply that color a little differently, as we just discussed. That's all I wanted to hit. It was mostly just to offer it as where we're headed. If there's anything that the board has as an issue or a code that you've seen in subdivision regs that you've always felt wasn't clear, you didn't like, we all read code. I mean, you guys might, read code because you have to go through these projects. If there's something that looks wonky to you, we'd like to hear about it. It doesn't have to be tonight. You can just email me. Any planner, any one of you can email me individually and say, there was something that I noticed in our code that I think it's a good idea to look at. This is the time where we're getting into the subregs that we wouldn't mind all those little cleanups that you might have.
I think too, the enforcement has been an issue on a lot of zoning codes. I mean, those storage things, they were in just about everybody's driveway for months and years. And there's no enforcement on that. There should be a 30-day limit, then go for an extension or.
Those storage units, those containers aren't allowed. But here's the town's approach. The town's approach to zoning enforcement is that, we're not proactive in our zoning enforcement. If we were, it'd be very difficult to be very even-handed and say, oh, what we're going to do is we're going to even-handedly enforce this issue across the whole town. I mean, what it would look like is we'd start to just pick on, we happen to drive by that today. And what we do is we do enforce the code, but we react when there's a complaint. But if we were out there looking for the issues on a daily basis, the to-do list or the list of zoning violations would start to pile up. Now, if something's a safety issue, absolutely, we're going to be right out there. If it's an aesthetic issue, sometimes we allow it to hey, if the neighbor complains, then that must mean it's bad enough for us to jump in. If nobody's complaining, the town's not out there, looking.
That's my point is front setback, you need a variance for a shed, but you can put one of them storage units.
Yeah, and it's a violation. What it would turn into is it'd be like, where you'd see all the violations, it'd be like on the staff's drive, whatever their commute is through Coventry, that's where you'd see all of the enforcement happening, because staff would be like, oh, there's a violation, but like everywhere else, it'd be they're off scot-free. The idea is that fair? Either way you cut it, I mean, staff just acknowledges, we want to enforce the code, but we're not out there driving around looking for it. But, yeah, call. It's people sometimes feel bashful. No, call. If you see a violation, staff are going to go right out there. If it's a violation, we call it like we see it. They're going to be noticed. There's going to get a cleanup. Yeah, it's through planning. Yeah, Carrie in our office ends up doing most of those site inspections, and she's doing a lot of that. Yeah. And more fair warning: if you build a pool, you better add a fence. Because Carrie's got no mercy for that. When I say we take the life safety issue seriously, well, that's one Carrie will lean into. Don't build a pool without a fence. Carrie's looking through backyards. She's looking for that. It is that time of year. Yeah. Yeah. That's all I had. I didn't want to keep you very late. Any questions, you guys are welcome. Any issues, code things, you can always email me if you have something that you see. Unbelievable, the timing. My commitment.